Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and our continuing series PGM Pandemonium, where I take a look at 8 of my favorite PGM games of all time. And today we're taking a look at the Gladiator. It's an absolutely spectacular beat 'em up that you've probably never heard of, because finding a little bit of information on this game on the internet is quite scarce. Before we get too far involved, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. If not, I might light your dojo on fire, you never know. All kidding aside, I absolutely love the Gladiator. It is a super fun, competent beat 'em up game, and the fun thing about the PGM platform is it has so many great games from the genres that people who love arcades love, but have probably never heard of, because we're already talked about, or will talk about, 2 incredible 2D fighting games that have basically no information online, and we have 2 beat 'em ups on the PGM as well that are also amazing. And previously I covered Knights of Valor 2 on Unported Playlists, so I won't be covering that on this series, but I will be looking at the original game in that series. But the Gladiator has everything I want out of a beat 'em up. I love the combo system, I love the special attacks. It also has a slight RPG element where your character upgrades their special moves, their defense, and their offense while you're playing. But right off the top, what I love so much about this game and the PGM hardware in general is that the pixel art is absolutely incredible. All those buildings in the background are super detailed. You can see cracks in the brick. You can see the different lines and striations in this rock wall here. All of the artwork that the team at IGS made for the Gladiator just is outstanding. It's as good as the Neo Geo ever looked. And honestly, because the PGM has a slightly higher resolution, in some areas it is a little bit more detailed as well. But seeing here, taking a look at the first boss, this game is quite hard. You're going to go through a lot of virtual credits playing it. Thankfully, we're not putting real quarters in, and it makes the game a lot more economical, but it is still going to give you a full challenge, because even the first boss has 2,500 hit points, and it takes a good 1 to 2 minutes to knock them out and move on with the game. But I do like that difficulty, especially when quarters aren't involved, because it feels fair but hard. It never feels cheap. And that's what I need in a good beat 'em up. I need challenge, but I don't need to feel like the bosses are going to take 10 credits off me and I just have to pay to be able to beat them. But again, just moving on to the next stage, I can't say enough good about the art style of the Gladiator. I love all the mountains in the background and how they have this sense of depth and scale. I love all the animations in the main characters, and you do get 6 main characters you can play as, so you definitely have a lot of options as to who you like better. But even the face on the wall and this door here that you need to beat down, the game has a ton of personality. You can tell the people that made this really cared about the property, because they did everything they could to put little fine details in the background. There's so many different buildings outside that valley there. They could have easily just put one, but moving inside and taking a look at the inside art, again, it's just oozing and dripping with detail. All of those fire effects and the changing color on the wall, making it look like there is actual real-time lighting there. All those faces on the walls, all the enemies. And that's the thing about the PGM hardware, is it can put a lot of sprites up at once, and you will notice that both your character and your opponents are relatively small on the screen space, but that allows the game to put up, at some points in time, a dozen different enemies that are coming at you from all different angles. And I would rather have more enemies and smaller sprites than larger sprites and only have 3 to 4 enemies on screen at once. But mechanically, you really do need to worry about that combo system, because you want to stack enemies up, because when you get a 6, 7, 8 hit combo at once and you're hitting 4 enemies at the same time, you can really clear the entire screen. So you want to really be worried about your spatial awareness when you're playing the Gladiator, because it's going to greatly help you out in the long run. So in some ways it feels like a very light fighting game mechanic, because you're always dealing with combos. But you'll see as we move into the next boss, you also have all of these different special attacks that you can utilize, and you're going to want to do that. Now don't whiff it like I did, because once you turn that special on, it is on autopilot until the animation is done. But you'll see if we just push the B button, we get one special attack. If we push forward and B at the same time, we're going to get another special attack. And as the game goes further on and we upgrade our character, we're going to be getting more and more specials, and they're going to get more and more powerful. Now, of course, the more powerful the special, the more of that special meter it's going to take off. So you're going to do a lot of active management between what special you want to use and how much of that special meter you want to get rid of. But I will say the game has a ton of story as well, and all of these games are quite long. All the beat 'em ups on the PGM are like 45 to 50 minutes long, and they do give you branching pathways, so you can go back and play this and see the other half of the game. And when we get to Knights of Valor, there's like 3 different branching paths at certain points in time. So these games have a ton of replayability, and I always appreciate that in a beat 'em up as well. It's not just one and done gameplay. But as good as this game looks and plays, it also sounds incredible. So go ahead and listen to the soundtrack for like 45 seconds or a minute. I'll come back and tell you more about why the Gladiator is that hidden beat 'em up gem you've been looking for and didn't know existed. But enjoy. The soundtrack's exactly what you expect it to be for a game that's set in East Asia, and that's the thing about IGS. They were a Taiwanese-based company, so pretty much every game is going to have some sort of Asian or Chinese influence to it. And it's really fun to kind of watch that because it's not often that you get a Chinese game maker. I mean, so for so long in China, game consoles weren't allowed or had to go through partner companies even to be allowed there, like the IQ player on the Nintendo 64. So it's really interesting to see a Taiwanese company, and is Taiwan China? No, it's not, but I don't think we have any Chinese viewers here that'll be mad about me saying that. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But it is fun to see different stylistic choices made when it comes to making arcade games. And we even get a little nice doggo there that we can just pet quickly. I don't know how he's summoned. I don't know if it's automatic or not, but I feel like you can just do it with a special button command prompt. But again, everything about this game is just spectacular. I love the graphics, I love the backgrounds, I love all the characters and how different they are. All of the bosses are challenging without feeling cheap. But this is the type of thing. I never hear anybody talk about this game. I don't hear anyone say, best beat 'em ups of all time, The Gladiator. Is this the best beat 'em up of all time? No. I would say this is in the A- tier, and there's definitely some games above it. But it is much, much better than you would think if you actually read about it. That's if you even came across a reference to it. And that's why I was so excited to do this series on the IGS PGM, because it is so obscure. I even like here that you can get into parry attacks with bosses, and if you push the controls at the right time, you're going to get special hits that are going to take a decent chunk of their life bar off. And you'll see as we move to another character, each character gives you something slightly different, and I love that about the game. Each playable character has their own style of gameplay, and you will find out who you like. But one of my other favorite parts about the Gladiator is just how different every single stage is, because I've mentioned in beat 'em up reviews in the past that sometimes I feel like they can get a little bit repetitive. And this game is constantly changing up the scenery, the colorscape, and the vibe of each level, so you're always excited to see what's going to happen next. And you even get little story vignettes throughout the levels as well, because when these archers come in and start to burn that building down, the screen just cuts away for 10 seconds to show you what that looks like. It's completely not necessary, but it's a nice little fine detail, and every level is just filled with those details. The lanterns that you see there, they're reflecting on the ground like there's a glowing candle inside of them, and even those flames are slightly lighting up the screen. There's just so many little things to look at that's what I love about this game outside of the mechanics of it, which are quite good and competent. But the enemy design is really fun as well. We have these little guys here with symbols, and they use them like frisbees. I don't know where that comes from. That might be some sort of Chinese mythological being or something like that. I'm not aware of Chinese myths, so if you know, leave me a comment down below. But it's just fun no matter what's going on. And like I said earlier, this game will start to get extremely hard because now we have two bosses at once and we need to handle them both. But you'll see there, if we do line up those specials and we do stack the enemies on top of one another, we can use one special move to get hit points off of both enemies. And that's going to be the name of the game in the Gladiator, stacking those enemies and trying to use as much of that special as you possibly can at once. But again, moving on to another stage, you just get another cutscene and a little bit more story. Now, any text in this game is going to be in Chinese. I cannot find an English version of it, so you're definitely going to have to just assume what's going on, but I think you'll be able to figure it out. But short of that, that is the Gladiator. It's an awesome 10 out of 10 hidden gem beat 'em up game that you've probably never heard of. But if you have heard of it, if you own it, or if you played it, leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think, because I would certainly be curious. I will be back next Tuesday with an episode in the PGM review series. I'll have videos on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday as well. Like I mentioned earlier, go down below, do me a huge favor, hit like and subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And I'm going to let the character chill out here for a second just to take a break. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.